Hello, my name is Chris Bennett, and this is a presentation regarding a very urgent matter. It's a presentation to the pilots and also to some professors at USC of aviation, Anthony Thomas, John Cox, and Greg Bendrick. I'm contacting them with a email, and I'm going to deliver it to them also regarding multiple urgent matters highly relevant to aviation, but of critical importance is this moon launch, which is coming up on April 1st. And because there are some parallels, multiple parallels with what's going on in aviation at the same time. So there's two critical issues. One is the heat shield is inadequate according to the experts who were involved in the previous space shuttle disasters where the heat shield failed. So they're saying we're going right down the same road of not acknowledging the extreme risk and the extreme possibility. Okay, when you say risk, it makes it seem like, oh, well, everything's risky. And so the heads of NASA are making the same mistake as before, which is, well, there's always going to be risk, so therefore 50-50, whatever, we don't know, it's acceptable. So that is called wishful thinking. And it needs to be discussed. So the psychological factor in the analysis of these launch decisions is what keeps going wrong, and this is the third time. So I was involved in the second one, and I'm trying to be heard, and I can't even get heard. So that's the third problem. So, but all you guys have a possibility of being able to break the log jams. So there's something, and it can break the log jams on the major problems that are happening in aviation right now. So the most critical one that's right in front of our faces is the amount of stress that the air traffic controllers and the pilots are under, in which case, you know, you're working a 10-hour shift or more, and then you are really under a lot of stress, and you're having to press yourself to focus. So it's as if you're in an emergency. Your emergency nervous system is going off. That's a recipe for disaster, because as your blood pressure goes up, it impairs your ability to think. So my father was a super expert on this. He was a professor of medicine at UCLA for 35 years. And he wrote this book right here, endorsed by Norman Cousins right there, professor at UCLA himself. In 12 weeks, you can control your high blood pressure without drugs. So how he got started is back in the 1970s, he learned about Nathan Pritikin, who was up in Santa Barbara doing seminars often for pilots to get them healthy and bring their blood pressure down. Why? Because if your blood pressure is going too high, then you become an unsafe pilot, and at least back then, you'd lose your license. So you couldn't be super high blood pressure, taking 2 or 3 drugs like most Americans, and flying that thing, because in an emergency, your blood pressure would go up to 200, and then you wouldn't be able to think straight. So what happens, what I learned from my dad's book, is that when your blood pressure goes too high, all the little capillaries in the brain and in the eyes and in the stomach and in the kidneys, they all shut down in order to protect them. There's this little muscle called the areole, I forgot. And it shuts down to prevent the capillaries from bursting under the high pressure. But it can cut the blood to your brain and to your eyes, damage your eyes over years, and damage your kidneys over years. So one of your professors at UCLA, at USC, Vito Campisi, is part of a foundation called the K-Rock Foundation, I think. And he has a department with the name there. Dr. Richard Glassick endorsed my father's book, and he is one of the founders of that foundation. I talked to Vito Campisi almost 10 years ago about my projects, and he knew my father. So Vito Campisi is a stress expert. I'd like to weigh in with him on this. I'd love to hear his thoughts. But I'm going through a lot of critical things. So they're all connected. So it's an incredible opportunity to prevent a potential disaster. Okay, but there's another lurking disaster which is not being acknowledged. And that is that when people are under a massive amount of stress, things can go wrong, like a panic attack. So in one of the flights with one of the astronauts, he recently shared, I'm not sure if it was that year long where they were stuck in space, but he was unable to speak for 20 minutes. And they still haven't determined why, but they didn't answer the question of how high was his blood pressure when he became unable to speak, because that's a symptom of a panic attack. I've experienced it before, a long time ago after 9/11. So, could be a stress-induced panic attack. So, another incident, and so they need to be aware of that, and they should be able to understand those things immediately. Hey, what's going on? We should check your blood pressure. What you need to do is breathe, relax. Being more in communication before the panic attack comes on. There's a lot of different ways. I've got a massive library and a bunch of professors at UCLA I've already communicated with regarding having a series of conferences on this whole issue. So Victor Naro wrote these 2 books. He's a professor of law at UCLA. I've been communicating with him for a year about this. He's checked out all the information on Starlite. So he's on the Airports Commission. He's a commissioner for the Los Angeles Airport, appointed by Mayor Bass. And so what he says in here is we're connected by our hearts. And so there's this scenario which I'm imagining, like stress. We worry about other people. Okay, so these 4 astronauts are going up. 2 astronauts, Dan Rasky, the engineer, NASA engineer, Charlie Camarda, the NASA astronaut who was involved in the last incident. So they're saying, no way, this is terrible, it's junk. Okay, it fell apart, it was falling apart, and it was just like this far from, they all died. They would have died if there was humans on there. Okay, so that's exactly what happened in the last 2 disasters, is that there was 2 or more people that were saying, no, don't do it, but they did it anyway. So in the first one, Alan McDonald did it, was saying he designed the O-rings, and he said, no, they're going to fail because I designed them and it's too cold, and it alters how they work. And so then when it took off, the heat in the engine burned through the O-ring, which there's these sections in the rocket, and then it exited, and then it burned through the external fuel tank and caused a massive explosion. And so if they had Starlite in a couple different places, it might have helped, but it wasn't invented back then. Okay, but he knew it was going to happen. Okay, no, don't do it. But the NASA people didn't talk to the astronauts and fully brief them. They didn't get a vote. So, and now the astronauts are just, well, the engineers said it's fine. The leaders at NASA said it's fine. They're not really being asked, well, 50-50, you might die. Do you want to go? Well, we could wait. We could spend a lot more money, improve it, double down on it. Okay, so no, that's not what happened. And I'm sure they don't fully understand the ramifications. Okay, Looks like they were pretty young during the last disaster. So, what does this all mean? So I met Alan McDonald in person, and he helped me out a lot. He introduced me to Dr. Raymond Clinton at NASA, and this is a critical point here. So we need President Clinton's help and Hillary Clinton. So I have two really, really good connections to them. So his cousin is involved with NASA since 30 years ago. It says right here, page 32, Raymond, the fourth child, was the only Clinton with any money. Raymond Jr. was the only one who was younger than I. He was also brighter. He literally became a rocket scientist with a distinguished career at NASA. So, good friends. And he signed this. Okay, I met him in person twice at Book People in Austin. Okay, here's that page. Oops, it came out. It got stuck. Page 32. All right, so I've got two ways to get to him. So there's this major attorney in New York that my advisor knows, and he represented her in some situation. Then there's Victor Naro is on the Airports Commission. Also there is an attorney, and he's a big attorney in Hollywood. A number of his clients have private jets, a separate issue that could be fireproof. And let's see, he also represents Hillary Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, and President Obama. So they've been using Starlite for 30 years, and they haven't paid us a dime yet. They owe us a lot of money. And if they just can start cooperating, please, then we're setting up a technology accelerator at UCLA, potentially at USC, where we can accelerate all kinds of applications. So, two major accidents, 3 in the last year, where this could be relevant. But let me first finish with the stress thing. So all these health experts are saying stress is contagious emotions. So it like bounces off in between the crew. Ronald Podell, UCLA professor, I met him in person 20 years ago. This came out in the 1990s. Connected. James Fowler, UC San Diego professor, Nicholas Christakis, Harvard. So they're saying we're connected to other people. So if you go up with the whole crew, everybody's got to get a stress evaluation. And if you go and then you're up there on the 2-week trip, it seems like real quick, and you're thinking, wow, that heat shield. Wow, Dan Rasky, he said it could fail. Charlie Kamada, I saw what he said. Ooh, dang, are you sure this is going to work out? And they're thinking about it and thinking about it, and then they're thinking about their kids, and they're thinking about their wife. And then their wife, she heard what Dan said, and before she left, she said, honey, I'm really worried about this. Are you sure it's okay? Oh, yeah, those NASA people, they know what they're talking about. Okay, it creates this uncertainty in your mind. It's whoosh, 2-week trip. You can't get off of that. If you start having a panic attack, do they have like knockout drugs that can knock them out? Okay, another incident that happened is one of the astronauts came back from the Space Shuttle, and then she had a meltdown, and she ended up planning to kidnap some lady that knew her husband, who was another astronaut maybe, or NASA person, and she drove all the way down for like an hour drive to go kidnap her, and then she got caught, and then she went to jail, and then she had to go to court to defend herself. And throughout the entire process, nobody ever said that's toxic stress overload and post-traumatic stress, because you just went up into space and it overloads the brain with stress. So it's a stressful experience. So if you go into it to go to the moon and you never had a stress evaluation to see, hey, what's going on with your life? Are you worried about this? Hey, what's going on in your family? Check everything that's bothering you. Then you could have a disaster up in space. A meltdown. Bad behavior, psychotic behavior, dangerous behavior. Could happen. Let's see. So better to have everybody feeling real good and positive and no uncertainty, very little uncertainties. The people that are saying, yeah, it's okay, they're not going. They seem a little insensitive, to be perfectly honest. Okay, so they need to evaluate their own, sensitivity about, like, concern for people might die or something else. Have a heart attack in space. There's no hospitals. A lot of different things that can go wrong. The body keeps the score. Some of these are UCLA professors. Daniel Siegel at UCLA endorsed this. I've invited all of them. This is about stress. All the astronauts should be super experts on counseling each other. What do you think? They're going to get on the phone from the moon? Hey, I'm having a meltdown. Can I talk to a psychologist? No. It's not going to happen. Okay, so connected secondary traumatic stress. Bunch of experts. I've been communicating with them for 20 years, trying to get them all heard. Victor Naro. Okay, so Victor Naro is on the Airports Commission. The other person there is a professor, an attorney. He's got a bunch of clients that are super celebrities, and they have private jets. And every model of private jet that I've looked into has had a crash, not that was caused by fire, which may have also occurred, but where they survived the crash and then they burned to death in the post-crash fire. So, example number one, Gulfstream. There was the Lewis Katz crash, a billionaire owner of the Philadelphia Inquirer, where he crashed, survived right next to the airport. The external fuel tanks blew up in a fireball. The fire trucks got there in a few minutes, but it was too late because it burned right through the hull. And so Starlite could provide a fireproof paint coating. And I talked to, Paris Hilton just had her Gulfstream repainted a few months ago. One of my partners, a couple of my partners know her really well. They're going to take this to her. But I contacted the people that repainted it, big company, and they're also maintaining it. The guy with her account said he'd never heard of fireproof paint that could be on a jet. No, her jet is not fireproof. So I said, well, how long would it take to repaint it? 3 weeks. So Sherwin-Williams has a fireproof paint. It's called intumescent paint with a thin, it can go on houses and everything, but they're not using it except in industrial projects. So what it does is you put a thin coating on, and then the thin coating, it puffs up in a char layer, which stays intact for 5, 10, 15 minutes, giving people enough time to escape or for the firefighters to get there and put it out. So it's like those fireworks where there's a char and you light it and then it's a snake and then it just chars. Except that's really fragile, but this is a char layer that's not. So that's how Starlite works. So Starlite's a powder. It's actually not plastic. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/Starlite Plastic, but it's actually not plastic. You can mix it with plastic. So you could it's already been developed into fireproof fabrics. So you could have the fabrics inside fireproof so that if the fire breaches the hull, all the seat cushions are not going to all burst into flames. The foam could be fireproof. leather could be treated with fireproof things. Some of it already is. Okay, but what we want to do is open up the market so that all the solutions become available, examined, and expedited into final applications. So the launch on Wednesday may seem unlikely that any group could intervene, but I've already got Congressman Babin looking at it. I contacted him more than 6 months ago about Starlite. He's the head of the aviation subcommittee, the aviation committee, and the committee that oversees NASA. Well, one of them he's just on the committee, but the other one he's the head of. So anyway, I contacted him, and I contacted his son, and I contacted a friend of his son, and it's all in this letter here, which I'm trying to get to everybody. Don't know if you can zoom in and read it, but let's see. So I'm here in Riverside, California, and in San Diego, gentleman by the name of Jocko Willink. He's a U.S. Marine. You know, a lot of pilots are Marines. A lot of pilots were in the military. Let's see. So I contacted. He has a podcast with 2 million followers, and with Leif Babin, Congressman Brian Babin's son. So I contacted all of them and got receipts. They got my emails with this letter, all about Starlite. And an earlier letter 6 months ago. Okay, but I keep getting ignored. Okay, that's got to be the biggest problem in world history. Stonewalling. Just stonewall people. You know, millions of kids are going hungry. Just ignore the issue. Our leaders. War. Bomb, bomb, bomb. Don't pay any attention. Who's impacted? Okay. Solutions. Cut off the pay of the air traffic controllers. Oops. It is what it is. No acknowledgement. Just stonewall all the little people. Ignore them. It's disgusting. There's people that are doing it out of a bad habit. They're nice people. They're good people. I'm challenging you to stop doing that, please, for God's sake. It's disgusting. Just ignoring people when they have legitimate concerns. Just because you figure somebody else will handle it. I'm busy. So you can't just send a message, answer, say, yeah, I got it. Well, sounds cool. Okay, I fly every day. Everybody flies. Why would somebody not want to just... Bottom line is this. My goal is to get the story in the news so that everybody can find out the truth. That's what my goal is. Simple task, you'd think, except for 20 years we've been contacting the news and they won't do the story. Except for there's been a bunch of stories about Starlite, which were like half-truths. And then I got in the news once and they let half of the truth in there. In Fresno Public Radio 7 years ago. Okay, so there you hear. NASA JPL, they're working on copping Starlite so they can protect houses from burning down. With UC Merced. Let's talk to Chris Bennett. Okay, what I told him, the only way Starlite's going to get available to the public is if, number one, the news people report on it fully, which they haven't, and they didn't. And then, if there's a group of people that just can't be ignored. So, one person's easy to ignore. 1, 2, 3 people, it's easy to stonewall them. But 10, 20, 30, 100? So I'm figuring if I just, this is a letter to pilots and flight attendants. If I just pass this out at the local airport and then they're going to immediately be able to verify every single thing that I'm saying. They got to get in those planes every day. So the UPS crash, let's see, that was an MD-11. Well, MD-11, that's what crashed in 1998. Okay, that's why I was holding this up. So 1998, the Swissair Flight 111 crashed because the insulation caught on fire, and within 15-20 minutes it crashed. And they didn't understand how urgent it was. If they just zoomed right down at the first airport, there's a good chance they could have landed. But it was a difficult task to get, because they were so high, so they went for the other airport and it crashed. So the FAA investigated and they discovered flammable insulation throughout the MD-11. They told Boeing they was going to have to take it out of all of them. It was in the news all over, 10 different news reports. CBS News, New York Times, etc., etc. It was going to cost millions of dollars. So we were doing testing of Starlite with Boeing and NASA. I was living in Palos Verdes at the time, staying at the home I grew up in, and the inventor stayed with me. I drove him down to the Huntington Beach Boeing facility where he set up a laboratory with everything there, and he did the testing. And so when this crash occurred, there's a video on his YouTube channel that shows the insulation, and they put a spray on of Starlite, and then they put the fire on it, and it wouldn't burn at all. Okay, so after that, we were supposed to get the job of replacing the insulation in 20,000 jets or something like that, and then it kept expanding to other models of jets. Okay, and then it became apparent it could go into every jet in the world. So if you can imagine, throughout the hull, there's insulation pieces, and they're thin, like wool. I've actually never seen them, but they keep the noise out and the cold out and the heat in. But they're not fireproof. And some of the insulation, especially as it gets older, it gets super flammable. Maybe not super flammable. Okay, so then there's wires throughout all the jets, and as they jiggle over 20, 30 years, landing and everything, they start to wear down and they create sparks. Okay, so you can, with Starlite, you can pull it out, spray it on, put it back. And so there's dozens of FAA documents saying Boeing is developing a spray-on fireproofing. They need a few years, and then it can go into the jets. The Boeing, and then there's. But what happened is that they stole it from us, and then in 2003 they slammed the door, and 3 months later the space shuttle blew up over Texas when the heat shield failed. The fleet was grounded of shuttles. So again, I contacted NASA and tried to work with them. Steve Polis. And they emailed me back, oh, we already know about this. We don't need it. Well, I didn't know they already had it yet. Okay, so I found that out later from Dr. Clinton himself. I talked to him on the phone 10 times. Okay, so all I'm asking to do is start cooperating. Nobody has to get in trouble. Okay. The trouble is if this doesn't get out. So back to the small jets though. UPS crash. Okay, well I'm jumping around. Okay, let me get back on track with here. So I was talking about this. Okay, so this is a book written by David Wilkins, his son died in the crash. He lives right near me. He was a professor at Loma Linda University. I've talked to him on the phone. He's got a really interesting story. It's all about how traumatic it was and coming together with all the families year after year, and his journey with God all throughout here. So, very interesting story. But I've been communicating with him about how the solutions have yet to be implemented. As we've seen, there's been problems with fire in the newest jets by Boeing with the batteries. Okay, a lot of different places where you could use fireproofing. But with the UPS crash, I wrote the headline here. It was the same model of jet. It went down, and it was on fire as it came down. Now, that wasn't the cause of the problem. There was something with the engine where it broke off, but that started a fire. And I may be wrong, but it looked like the fire went all the way into the rear engine. It could have influenced that, and the fire was enough to burn through the wing, and it could have caused the wing to come off, which might have been part of the reason why it crashed in the way it did. Okay, but that's speculation. The important thing is, if they had a fireproof coating over the wing, in other scenarios like that, it could have helped. Let's see. But there's multiple issues there with that particular crash. For example, the place where it crash landed and killed another 6 or 7 people, a bunch of warehouses, shouldn't that have been like empty space? You know, so I was thinking with Victor Naro, who's on the Los Angeles Airports Commission, maybe all the airports should do a stand down and see if, you know, right after the runway, there are places where trees need to be cut, et cetera, before and after the runways. You know, it seems like if you look 1,000 years in the future, 100 years, eventually a plane is going to have a problem and it's going to come down, maybe not in a crash landing, like right after the airport or right before. Okay, so if you could increase the space there, you could save lives. I mean, who would want to have their business right next to the airport where if it has a problem, it's going to land? That seems like something that should be rethought. Then we have in Korea, over a year ago, similar situation where there was a brick wall, some kind of a facility that shouldn't have been there, that caused that accident. And then one person survived. Potentially, I heard that the autopsies didn't come out because maybe some other passengers didn't survive. I mean, survived and then died from smoke or fire. Okay, that's a possibility still there. That hasn't been a question that hasn't been answered. Let's see. So I go through the Starlite history here in this letter, and I explain that this logjam can only be broken with a bunch of flight attendants, pilots, who share this information. Just share youtube.com/starlightplastic with, 10 pilots. You're passing them in the airport. Hey, you should check this out. All I want to do is get the truth out. Oh my God. It's supposed to be America. Free speech. First Amendment. Okay, but I keep reaching people with the Starlite story, and they're just, I don't know. It seems like some kind of electronic interference. Can't reach people. People act, no, I'm too busy. Instead of just pass it along. Wow, let other people see it. Find out what's going on. So the only way that's, the pilots and the flight attendants, they're the ones who have to fly every day and are at risk on this. So I'm hoping that if I can get this letter to 10 pilots, that it'll go viral within the pilot community, because that's the only way it's going to change. If you see the Dateline NBC video with Jane Pauley and Stone Phillips, they interview the NASA guy, Rudy Naranjo, and then they show the space shuttle taking off, and they say maybe Starlite can help with the fragile heat shield. Okay, that was what we were supposed to get used for. Okay, so Rudy Naranjo, I talked to him on the phone after, 20 years ago, and he said, Chris, the only way this is going to get out if it gets in the news. That hasn't happened. I keep getting blocked. So you can see it on my YouTube channel. I gave it to Robert Kovacic at NBC News on camera. I asked him to report on it. Nothing's happened yet. At the Jimmy Kimmel event about the importance of the First Amendment and free speech and freedom of the press. Okay, another story. Okay, I went there. I gave it to several different news people. I have them all on camera. Okay, let's see, who was the other one? At Fox News. Phil Schumann. Phil Schumann, 3 times I gave him my stories. Got him on video. I'm going to be uploading that soon. Still no answer. Okay, it's only going to change with a bunch of flight attendants and pilots sharing this information. What is going on? That's all we want to know. What is going on? Okay, so I got my foot in the door with Congressman Babin, but I keep sending messages. I haven't gotten one iota of a response. Yeah, Chris, we got it. I got at least 10 receipts, email receipts, but didn't get one iota of, Chris, I saw this thing about Starlite. Whoa, that's awesome. You're saying all I got to do is just join a task force and I could be a part owner? Wow, okay, tell me more. Okay, so I can't tell if my communications have been blocked, if he's getting blocked from calling me. Can't tell, I'm not psychic. Okay, this stonewalling thing, I know that a lot of people do it. The Congress people do it. The Congress people's staff do it. But they can't do it with a group that's all, coordinated, asking the same question. So you're welcome to call me. Visit me in person. I live here in Riverside, and let's see, you got my phone number here. Let's see. I sent this first to Congress 6 months ago. I live here in Riverside. Limonite is the street, if you live around here. There's a UPS store right here, right a few blocks from Van Buren. The owner is a really nice guy there. I've given him this letter. He sent it into UPS. Okay, that's another way to contact me. I don't have his name, dang it. But anyway, I'm taking this in person. I've given it to my local congressperson. I've sent it by email, Takano. I'm going to be going down there tomorrow or the next day, soon, to deliver this in person and see, what are you guys going to do? Are you going to give me a response? I've been sending it to Congress for 20 years. I sent it to Robert Garcia down in Long Beach. He's a congressperson. He's on the Committee for Aviation Safety. Haven't gotten one response. I'm planning on going down there soon. You could call them. Their phone number is right here in the letter. Brian Babin's email's right here, and his phone number. Okay, so, but the guy that's the missing link is Jocko. Jocko can help. Congressman Brian Babin heads the committee which oversees NASA, and he is on the committee with oversight for aviation safety. 6 months ago, I contacted his staff and his son, Leif Babin, and Leif's YouTube channel co-host, Jocko Willink. Both are U.S. Marines. I simply asked Jocko and Leif to confirm Rep. Babin got the information and asked for a response. No answers yet. Please call Jocko, 619-981-1772. It's his cell phone. Okay, now, he's also got a gym down there in San Diego. It's called the gym. It's MMW. VictoryGyms.com. They have a phone number. I've offered him part ownership. Okay, so I'm confused. So, but very few people are going to see this video. You know why? YouTube has been shadow banning me for years. That means like they have billions of views daily or whatever. You know, if you put a video on there, you'd think it would all of a sudden pop up and 100,000 people would see it. No. They bury it. They shadow ban it so that nobody sees it except the people you personally show it to. Okay, so I put Jocko's phone number in there, but he's probably only going to get a couple phone calls. Okay, unless like 10 pilots start calling him. Sorry, Jocko. Okay, I'll edit that out if I hear from you. Okay, I need help breaking the logjam, though. Okay, you guys are getting ignored, too. The pilots? Okay, look at, if you're working 10 hours, how many hours do the pilots work? How many hours? Okay, stress experts. All right, it's not right. You should be able to earn the same amount of money with a reasonable amount of hours so that you're not fatigued. Okay, I look at example. Kaiser nurses were on strike a month ago. My friend who has Kaiser got terrible care, and therefore she ended up in the hospital during the strike with a life-threatening sepsis kidney infection. She almost died right in front of my eyes, except the temporary nurses saved her. I met the striking nurses out front, and I was thinking, you know, if I had a life-threatening emergency, I wouldn't want to go into the hospital, and the nurses were working like in a state of exhaustion. And likewise, if a pilot was piloting my airplane or the air traffic controller or, I wouldn't want them to be deliriously tired. And that stress can build up over time like layers, okay, year after year. That's why they're quitting, because they're miserable. Oh, I figured out something really important. Bad news stress turns off happy chemicals in your brain. So if you're working 15 hours a day, it turns off the happy chemicals. If you're all stressed out and worried, oh my God, somebody's going to die. Oh my God, can you imagine the pressure? I'm not getting paid now? Okay, that's a violation of the Constitution of the United States of America. It's called slavery. Okay, they just cut off your pay. Oh, we're going to cut off your pay. Cut off your pay. Yeah, 3 months, no pay. Sorry, because we're having a disagreement. Oh, gee, why don't you just make it happen, dude? Make it happen. All right, so I'm running out of time here, but let me try to wrap it up. Bad idea. Okay, bad idea for that flight to happen on Wednesday. It's an opportunity for a list of issues to be heard and for a group to come together at UCLA. Victor Naro agreed to do it, but he's scared. He's scared, like most people. They've got fear, okay? Fear about, like, there's big people involved, all right? I don't have fear, okay? He's going to be nice. All right, he's going to be really nice soon. All right, he's not all bad. All right, I guarantee you. Let's see. Victor Naro's email. You can email him. He's at UCLA. He's been receiving all this information. And every single thing I've said here is easily provable. I've got a lot of the reference here. President Obama, the Air Force One has Starlite in it. You're going to be able to prove that one. It's in here. All right, they got it. Captain Ponsor, Mindrum.com, Mindrum.com. He was working at the base where they maintained Air Force One over 10 years ago. In 2013, I contacted him. Hey, do you know there's a flammable insulation in Air Force One, Boeing jets, and we have a solution that could be really good. So I sent him an email. Never heard back from him. That year, right in the news, DefenseIndustryDaily.com. Boeing Aerospace receives $8.5 million contract for modifications upgrading Air Force One in order to bring it into compliance with FAA Airworthiness Directive 2008-23-09. Replace the aircraft body's AN-26 thermal acoustic insulation layer, which falls short of fire-resistant requirements in the FAA's judgment. This contract involves any design and manufacture of the replacement. Work will be performed at Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and San Antonio, Texas. Okay. Everything's provable. So, President got it. You guys didn't get it. It's not right. Gulfstream. Okay. Paris Hilton has a Gulfstream. Justin Bieber has a Gulfstream. My partner, advisor in New York, he knows Justin Bieber's father, Stephen Baldwin. They go to the same church. He's already talked to him about it. We're going to treat a couple celebrity jets to make them fireproof. I talked to the guy that maintains Paris Hilton's jet. He worked for I'm blocking on the name, company, Gulfstream for 20 years. Okay, so I talked to the sales rep for Gulfstream for the West Coast. He hadn't heard of fireproof paint for the outside. So the guy that's maintaining Paris's jet, I asked him, there's another Gulfstream crash where the test pilot and the crew survived and then they burned to death. And he knew the pilot. That was over 10 years ago. Another crash besides the Lewis Katz crash. Okay, so that's 2 crashes with Gulfstream of this manner. So a fireproof coating, it's worth a shot. You may have heard about the Singapore Airlines crash in 2000. It came in, a Boeing jet. Everybody survived. There was a major fire, and 20 or 30 people burned to death. Some people survived. One of them survived. What's his name? John. I've got his autobiography right here. I've talked to him on the phone. He's a friend of a friend. One of my partners. Okay. He survived. He went on Oprah and he described on Oprah, you can see it on YouTube, seeing the fire come in and seeing the people around him burn to death, and this light came out of him and went up in like that. He saw something like a light going out and up. That's what he said. So take that to mean what it means to you. Okay, but bottom line is this. These things keep happening. There was a couple from Houston. The wife was in a jet in January of this year, and he's a prominent attorney, liability attorney that deals with fires all the time and cases and aviation accidents. And his wife The plane crashed with her friends. One of them was a member of Joel Osteen's church, and looked like from the crash information that they might have survived, except there was a bad fire and it reduced the hull to rubble. So bottom line is this: everything could be fireproof, in which case the hull wouldn't be reduced to, ashes, and you'd get a chance for the firefighters to get there to put it out. And once again, I think the planes, the NASCAR driver is another example 3 months ago, and his family, and that was on video, where you see the video, this flaming plane is going down the runway, all on fire, and for some reason the video got cut really short, so you can't see the beginning of it, but it looks like, because it was all intact, the wheels were rolling, that they all survived, and then they burned to death because the fuel tanks hit trees or something and burst into flames. So why are there trees right next to an airport? I know it's beautiful, but look for all the things that these things can hit. Paris Hilton, and she's friends with Travis Barker, a musician, famous musician. He came down in his, I think it was a Cessna or something. Everybody survived right after the airport. Fuel tanks blew up. The pilot burned to death, and maybe the crew. He got out with his bandmate, had to run through a flaming, a wall of flame. He caught on fire. They both caught on fire. He got major burns that took over a year to heal in the hospital. Okay, so if he had had a fireproof hull, people could have stayed inside protected for the fire to burn out, or for the firefighters to get there, or to fireproof blankets to throw over them, fireproof, rollout slide. I don't know. We could brainstorm. But bottom line is this: the technology is being blocked. And only you can unblock the log jam. Tear down the wall. Tear down the wall. Please tear down the wall. I grew up watching Pink Floyd. I went to 2 of their concerts. We got solutions abounding everywhere. My dad's book can reverse most illnesses with healthy living. He proved that in the 1970s with peer-reviewed studies. Now I've got a bunch of other professors at UCLA that are saying the same thing. Dr. Dean Ornish has already agreed to participate at UC San Francisco through my partner who's known him since kindergarten. So, I'm about to get cut off, so I better just say goodbye. Is there anything I missed that's of critical importance? There is a extremely high probability, these astronauts have got this mission mentality, like whatever it is, I can do it. Okay, these are military people, a lot of them. Yeah, sacrifice, I'm tough as hell. Not one acknowledgement like they have any education on stress because of those 2 incidents where stress wasn't even discussed. Okay, so it's easy to just say, cross your fingers, go with the flow, but if you guys just come together, 10 phone calls from pilots to the congressperson, 10 phone calls to Jocko. Okay, Jocko, I may drive down there to his gym and knock on the door tomorrow. It's a good possibility, but it's a 2-hour drive. Oh my God, I hate driving. Anyway, I may go to the airport close by and pass this out. Okay, maybe Jocko's going to come through. Maybe he has been getting my information. Maybe he has been seeing these videos that I already posted. Okay, maybe they're going to launch and they're going to survive, and we're all going to say, yay. Okay, maybe they're going to launch and something's going to go wrong. Okay? We don't know. We're gambling again. We're doing a gamble again. Okay? Just like the past 2 disasters. All right? But I'll tell you this, okay? It's clear as day. Those people making a decision, they're making a gamble decision on the Artemis, and they're not on it. They're not on it. That's annoying. Okay? And the people running the aviation system, they're not paying people. They're getting paid. They're so rich it doesn't even matter. Okay? And they're not listening to anybody. Okay? It's not like they're like, let's hear what they had to say about it. No, they just stonewall you. They make all their decisions. We're just the little people. Okay? But I'm looking for some people that are sick and tired of that, and they just want to be heard, and they want to just not have to chase people down anymore and beg for some consideration. I mean, have some dignity, you guys, you pilots. You have some dignity, you air traffic controllers. Don't let them treat you like slaves. Okay, that's slavery. It's illegal. It's against the Constitution. Okay, to not pay people. All right, and to work them to illness. So, like I said, my dad discovered in the 1970s because of Nathan Pritikin. Nathan Pritikin would put you in a beautiful hotel for a month, exercising and eat right with my dad, and you'd bring your stress down, you'd get off those pills that are causing your blood pressure to go up, okay?